Well, hey, Gundam Maniacs! Welcome to the Gundam Explained Show Live. This is episode 117. Mr. Halo himself, right?
There you go.
Man,
John Halo.
That's sad. Thinking of, John Halo, of like how much I used to love Halo, and that last game just kind of was like a whimper, almost.
Well, I haven't bought an Xbox in a while, so I've
that's
been
right.
a Halo star for some time.
No, but thanks everyone that's joining. I'm your host, Adam Blue. Each week we talk about Gundam or Gundam adjacent things. Joining me as always, Steven, Midnight Hatter. How's it going, man?
Good. I hope that I will not be coughing my lungs out today like I was
Oh,
yesterday on our show.
but
Yeah,
dude,
that was
yesterday's episode, if you guys hadn't caught it, was awesome. It's like exactly the type of thing I like to dive into. It's kind of the behind the scenes, not just of like Zeta Gundam, but almost getting creators' insight into how they approach different scenarios. And man, it was check that out if you haven't. Link in the
yeah.
description.
Yeah, for all the beef that that Ano and Tomino tend to have like between each other, it was interesting to hear two anime greats kind of talking about anime. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was. So I'm glad you brought that to my attention. But another thing, so like I had my video go out, I think it was yesterday about a Battle of Odessa, Operation Odessa. It was
Yes.
really cool. I got help from Talos on that. But you, Steven, you and Talos have a video on Talos's channel, right?
Yes.
The
It was a deep
like the
dive on the Zeta
yeah,
Gundam. So
excellent video. Again, my type of content.
oh
So
yeah, so much fun. And honestly, now that I've watched the Operation Odessa video from yesterday, the I'm going to be cross-referencing that information with the RPG book, the manual that I have,
oh,
since it has that
nice.
full 1-year war timeline. I want to like compare and contrast the information that we got from your video with Talos and the information from the RPG manual and see what lines up and what doesn't. I think that'll be a pretty cool comparison.
No, that is a good idea. So whatever you find from that, let's plan maybe that could be like an additional live my channel, your channel, whatever.
Let's
I
do
feel
it.
like I feel like there's always going to be different information, especially during different time periods when information was put out. Just because now there was a GM Type B
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
didn't know that wasn't in any previous materials and is now, and it's pretty awesome. So, um,
It's
no, that's
very
cool.
cool.
And quick shout out to the chat. I sometimes forget to do this. Rogue, New Type, Goose, Dan Vince, Austin Mangus, good to see you. Johnny Tacoma, Neo X, Clint Garcia, good to see you. King Dylan, Web Fox, and I think that's it. Yeah. So yeah, thanks everyone that's joined. Cool episode today. A new suit dropped on GBO2, which happens to be every Thursday that I do these live streams. So we'll talk about that. It's another one that I don't really think of too much. And I'm going to attempt to roll for it. So
Yes.
we're
I
going to do that
love
here in a
live
second.
rolls.
Yeah, we're going to do that here in a second. Also, there was a listing of a new Gunpla for that Gundam Metaverse, which I want us to talk about here shortly, like what we thought. But there's
Definitely.
this new badass Gunpla coming out that I want to talk about. And then speaking of Gunpla, there was something with the new Seed Gunplas I thought was interesting. So we'll take a look and see if it really is interesting or just marketing.
Everything's marketing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, really everything's marketing. No, but first of all, other than our live stream yesterday or reading those interviews, anything Gundam related you got into this week?
I'm glad you asked because, every month for my Patreon rewards for, well, the Principality of Polygons, as we call it, our 3D print reward tier, I send out a 3D print file for people to play with and, hopefully enjoy. So I've got a 1:144 scale pilot figure that I painted. I don't know if I'm ever going to get this camera to focus on it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, like it's focusing in there. That looks excellent.
Yeah, so I've got a tiny Federation pilot that I painted. I unfortunately broke the leg off of my Char figure as I was painting him, so I'm gonna have to, glue it and repair it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really pleased with how these guys turned out because when you look at the 3D files, you're like, there's like no details on that, and it doesn't seem like it would look like a pilot suit. but really at this scale,
Okay.
even the most tiny detail makes it pop. So, yeah, my plan is to basically print a ton of these tiny little 1 to 1/44th scale Gunpla figures and add them
Mm.
to my dioramas, add them to even
Yes.
just, like, static pieces I think would be cool, like, line them up on the
Yeah.
Artima launch deck.
That adds to, that's the thing I really like about, because I have my Gunpla and Robot Spirits on shelves, but like when you want to really portray what you're trying to, having those little figures helps. Like,
Oh, yeah, when you then you put it in scale and you're like, "Oh,
yeah.
man, these are giant mobile suits."
That's why they need to do more of that stuff. Like, and I can't forget to get a Zoid, but like the Zoids, when there was some that had the pilot inside, like that,
Yeah.
like I love that stuff. And I know some master grades, high grades come with the pilot, but I would love something where maybe they do have to change the scaling, but make it where you can have like an articulated figure. Kind of like what Star Wars was doing recently with the Galaxy Squadron, whatever. I think I talked about it about a year ago on the show where they have like the Millennium Falcon, the X-wing, and you have the articulated figures inside.
Those were the
AT-AT.
best.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I think I had the X-Wing.
yeah, and so did you ever have the AT-AT?
No, I didn't have the AT-AT.
Because
That was a
what's
little bit
crazy is like the one that they've made now is to scale, so it's like gigantic. It's the more expensive one to buy,
sweet.
and it's like
Yeah.
that's what Gundam needs to do. It needs to sell these, I don't know, $30. They might not have to be super detailed, but enough to where they're articulated and you can put a figure in or something.
Oh, yeah. Well, and, that's something that I definitely wanna explore doing later because I noticed that, I'm a big fan of the Techo Toys line.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
single dude in Germany that makes these amazing mecha 3D models. So he recently posted on Instagram that he took his 1/35th scale figures and scaled them down to, like, I guess what would it be like 1/72nd scale or it was like 1 to 100 scale, something like that. He took the figures that you can
Yeah.
buy that are like 1/35th scale, scaled them down, and printed them, and he was like, "They still work." So,
Wow.
like, if you can take a ball jointed figure like that and scale it down in your 3D software, print it, like, I think that this would probably be still too small, but I don't know.
Yeah.
If you
Like,
design the ball joints well enough,
yeah, ball joints or magnets. The
there you
special
go.
magic that we don't know how it works. No, but, no, yeah, I like it when figures or things have magnets, because at that scale, yeah, I wonder, like, do you make it it reminds me because I have from the Star Wars, 3.75-inch figures, I have the Baby Yoda, and it's fully articulated. Like,
Yeah, come on. Yeah,
arms are on ball joints, so it's like it can happen. So, no, that's cool. Okay, so that's been your week pretty much?
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, as for me, yeah, it was doing the research on that Operation Odessa because and that is something I'm intentionally gonna do is make these videos where I'm just talking about the battle. What I want to do is like set the stage of this is where you can watch the battle take place. This is when it took place in the timeline. These are the mobile suits that were in it, and here's some pivotal moments to it. And as I go, feel free for anyone to add in the comments, like maybe add this or try to frame it like this. Tadlos kind of came up with this concept when we were working on the video where he had like a prelude where it's almost like, okay, yeah, let's talk about things that led up to it because a lot of conflict is based on a conflict. So
Yeah,
it's like, what was it that in the Gundam world that led to a certain battle or something? So
right, and, like, what are the implications of that battle, right?
yeah.
Like, so the fight for Odessa being a fight for resources, being like, I mean, that could really change the tide of who was going to win the One-Year War.
You know what? And speaking of that, I don't know if anyone saw, I don't know if you saw this on the Gundam Info YouTube. They did like a timeline, a Universal Century timeline video. It was just the other day. And, but what they're doing is they're basing it off of UC Engage. Like it's showing clips from the shows, but then also clips from UC Engage. And it starts
Mhm.
from 0079 and it even goes to Victory. So it doesn't go to G Savior, but all right. But
We'll take what we can get.
it's cool that,
Mhm.
even today, a modern game that's gonna be released soon, they're still telling the stories through Victory. Um,
Oh, yeah.
and That even made me think, like, I was like, "Oh, I should make a timeline video," but it's like, you know what? They kinda did, but I would probably change it up. I would have it where, they kinda did it where they had a few sentences narrated based on each one. I would like to do it where here's a timeline of when this series took place. Here are the battles that took place. Here's the
Yeah,
series. Here are
definitely.
the battles. Yeah, it's
And I would love to have like a, like a map where you can
yeah.
see like territories as they are being conquered. And then like, because I love seeing that stuff where it's like, this is what this country looked like in 1971. This is what it looks like
Yeah.
now. If you were to do that with the world map of 0079, that'd be
Yeah,
cool.
because in that Battle for Odessa video, I had the GIF that was the shot from MS Igloo where it shows like the European front slowly being
Yep.
consumed. But yeah, if we were to somehow have a full map of the Earth, because in I forget which video it was I did, but it's where I showed the Earth sphere during different timelines, like where the colonies were and like as
Right.
they
Yeah.
moved and stuff. Because that's also something else because I feel like when you want to get into Gundam, especially Universal Century, it's good to have that foundational where did battles happen? What changed? And then as you move into the different timelines, it's like, okay, I know by double zeta, this is going on. Because then I think that
Hmm.
helps when I'm wanting to get into stuff like Moon or Sentinel. It's like, okay, where does this fit in? So what impact does it have? So um
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I find that interesting. Other than that, yeah, I haven't really gotten to much other Gundam stuff. But we're gonna do something here real quick. Let me pull up.
Fire up GBO2.
Yep, let me fire video too. Let's see. Let's see if
Now,
I can get
so
something.
this is Steam, not PS5.
This is PlayStation.
Oh, this is the PlayStation one. Okay,
Yeah,
sweet.
this is PlayStation. Yeah, because they got the latest updates. And also, and I don't know if I need to make this clear. This is an account that was provided to me in order to show off new suits. So, but you still have to spin for them. So
Yeah, that's
let's see where. Okay, it's loading. It's 2023. I thought we got past load times. Wasn't it the
no.
GameCube that was like wasn't their main thing was they barely had any load times?
Yeah, and then, we got the PS3 and it was like, "Hey, you're gonna spend 5 hours to install Metal Gear Solid 4 on your console, specifically so that you can wait an hour to, like."
Or it was like that. I mean, I haven't bought disc-based games in a while, but it would be you would buy the disc, put it in, and it still needed to like download.
Yeah,
And it's like,
it
come
it
on.
it basically was just a download code.
Yeah, I know. All right. Okay, so let's see this. Let's give this a shot here. So Gaza G, poorly timed name. Uh, but yeah, let's see what happens here. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Not bad. Couple weapons.
It's always when I see the weapons when
Yeah.
they could be pivotal. I'm like, like
Mm,
what? Come on. Huh, huh, okay,
I'll take that.
I'll take that. Yeah, that's Gundam.
I'd buy that for $1.
Okay, Gunkin and Aqua. That's neat.
Got some recycle tickets out of that, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh,
Hey, look at you. You're gonna be
that,
styling now.
yeah, that's pretty neat actually. Okay, so nothing on this. Actually, let me see. Am I on my? No, actually, let me switch to my other account. Actually,
Cool, cool. So, yeah, I
um,
was just thinking there for a second because Gaza G, so we know that there's a Gaza C, Gaza D.
oh, well, I got to stop remote sharing real quick. I'm always confused by how that works.
I just didn't know that there was a Gaza E and F.
Yeah, we're gonna look into that because anyway, I didn't get it. Actually, I might be able to get it if I sign in on my other one, but I'd have to turn off the remote play, and
There's like a
PlayStation makes
hole.
things way more difficult than it needs to be. Um, you know what I mean? Like with the
Oh, yeah.
G Generation Genesis, I can't play that on remote play
Really? Why not?
because it has a block.
Oh, that's
Yeah, they
right,
have
because it has the PS Vita
yeah
copy.
the yeah yeah. So I wonder if that was the main. But even with Code Fairy. Like, you'll play it and
Mm,
then it'll have to block some stuff out, and
yeah,
that's so annoying. Um, anyway, I'm gonna try it on my other account. I was provided a super account, and I'm gonna try it on there, and then I'll post on Twitter or something if I get it. But
cool.
you brought up the main question that I wanted to dive into from this, and that's uh the Gaza G is what is in GBO2. So this says it's a part of the Gaza series, Gundam Sentinel, later in Moon Gundam. And then is it Gaza or Gaza?
That's a good point. I've
Yeah,
always said Gaza, but, that's
Gaza.
just
Okay.
my silly American
No,
pronunciation.
hey, I'm going with that. Okay. So operator Neo Xeon, Axis Xeon. Um, there's not much about this if you look, which is pretty neat. So this is another example of GBO2 taking something not too well known.
Oh, yeah.
It showed up in Sentinel and Moon Gundam.
And
Based
it probably played a bigger role in Moon Gundam than it did in Sentinel because Sentinel is primarily a conflict between the New Decides and the AUG, so
Okay, good point.
you wouldn't
Okay,
have had a lot of Neo Zeon characters in that.
good point. So then if we were to look at the C, now this is one we all recognize.
Yep.
To the point to where I think when I first saw this, I was like, this is the dumbest mobile suit. And I want to say we've probably already had this conversation on here. Because look at this. Gaza, it goes to X.
Oh, gee. Well, but that's not 26 letters,
It's not.
so they skip a few.
So
Th
so we have Gazas to look forward to that just haven't been described yet in the
There we
universal
go.
timeline. That's
Yeah,
um okay,
and
so
then the
develop
missing Gaza A and B.
well, let's see. Here's the B, which
Okay.
interesting.
Looks cooler than the C, to be honest with
It,
you.
it actually does. It seems to retain a lot more of that the Xeon visual identity, but just adding, I guess, more extras. So this is from Double Fake. Um, it was based on old Xeon construction mobile suit Gaza A. Okay, so let's
Cool.
look at the A. Yeah, I feel like we've looked at this before because I saw that and I was like, oh, that's cool. It's like a mobile armor, right? That
Yeah.
would have. Oh yeah, based on the Argo. So there was a time we did talk about this. It's
Yeah, we've had this conversation before.
it's these lesser known ones that you kind of just forget about. But yeah, the Argo is kind of like the ball for Xeon.
Yeah.
And I guess then we can see where that development path went into more of a mobile armor and then adding more mobile suit sensibilities to eventually get to. So the one that's in GBO2 right now, oh no, it wasn't the D, it was the
G.
G. Yeah, let's go to that real quick. Oh my God, there's so many. What's cool about it, the first thing I noticed is it tend to have like double Zeta looking beam sabers sticking out on its binders. I don't know if that's the case because I haven't dived into the one in GBO2 and there's not um, much data on it here
No.
on the wiki. So uh, okay, actually, there's a couple things I wanted to hear. First, I want to look at the X since that seems like that would be the last one. Eh, 0088. They seem to just go through those types pretty
Yeah.
quick, maybe.
I thought you were gonna say that this was, like, from Hathaway, but
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking maybe it went that far. And yeah, very little on it. So it's and this is from Cyber New Type Story, another Z Gundam. So one thing I've noticed is these Gazas seem to be across unrelated, well, not unrelated, but different stories, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Which, that could be an interesting video if we could suss out, some of these mangas and some of these stories and kind of put together it sounds like they were all kind of fielded in different theaters of the Grips conflict and the first Neo Zeon War because, they all were fielded between 0086 and 0088, right?
yeah,
And they were all kind of in different areas. So if like because Sentinel was technically taking place at the same time as Double Zeta,
yeah.
but it just was taking place at the New Decides instead of, in the core Earth sphere. So it's like, was the Gaza G sent out to new decides while the Gaza D was sent after Judo and the Argama? What's the maybe there was some kind of like because of the Neo Zeon civil war that was going on between like Glemmy and Haman, maybe you had different development trees of this same mobile suit family that were kind of branching off. It's just
Yeah,
interesting to speculate about.
no, that actually gives me a good idea, because it's like with that Odessa video I did. It's like I want to try to figure things out so I can map it out in a video. Like it would be cool to be like, okay, here's when the Gaza C or the A was created, and have it where it shows what show or timeline that would have taken place in, and then kind of as it branches out, notate this is where you would see this variant, this is where you would see this variant. Um, because it's interesting. It seems like in the background, the Gaza was not important or a pivotal line, but a relevant line to keep going.
Yeah. I
It's-
mean, especially at a time when Xeon was kind of was hurting for resources, right? Like this was not like the Xeon of the 1 Year War where they were cranking out new models every week. This was like they had no money, they had no territory, and so the Gaza Sea was like the backbone of Haman's forces. They didn't
okay, I was going to ask you about that because would you say that for and would it be correct to say for is it for Axis Xeon that this was like their Zaku 2?
I mean, that would probably be a fair thing to say.
Okay.
You saw more of them than you saw
Right.
Zaku's.
Exactly. That's what I find is interesting. And do you think the color of it is supposed to be representative of Haman or the fact that Maneva was kind of the heir, so they kind of reflect the more feminine?
Well, and, Haman has a custom color. It's like the white and purple of the Cubile.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
So I wonder if that's kind of the through line here because I'm going to be honest, it might sound like a little boy, but it's like this mobile suit looks dumb, and why is it pink and purple if it's the main forces of the bad guys? But there is some lore behind it, essentially.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and I mean, purple is typically like a regal color, and if you're thinking
yeah,
in terms of like, Haman trying to return Xeon to aristocracy, I think that it makes a lot of sense for her to adopt like a pink and purple kind of color scheme across all of Xeon's, flagship ships and like
yeah.
mobile suits.
No, that makes
Um,
sense.
at
Although
least
that
that's how I would interpret it.
does that explain the Puru clones, Cublaze? Does
Right, since they were all purple and
Yeah, but that was under Glemmy, unless Glemmy was just using Haman's plans,
it's yeah, I don't know. That's
or
a
no one has ever really considered that at anything they would ever think. Just me sitting here on
well, these are the types of things that like that Talos and I were talking about during the deep
Yeah,
dive on Zeta. Is
yeah,
it's like
I
you
love
never
it.
really consider things like, oh well, it's green because that's a cool color, and it's like no, there's a functional choice behind doing some of these things, and maybe it's not explicitly stated in any series or mangas, but like it's kind of fun to speculate on the the ruling class that like the Zabi family kind of went with this green motif through all of their designs, the
Yeah,
Zaku's, everything was very grounded. And then when Haman takes over Xeon, you adopt these sort of feminine color palettes, pinks and purples. And then you get into Char's Neo Xeon where everything's red, which kind
mm,
of obviously,
yeah,
he wanted everything to be 3 times faster. So
yeah. No, that's a good point. It almost reminds me too of the thing you always bring up to me, and it's that whole thing about, like, how the animation is intentional. So,
yeah.
that could be the case when they are, like, designing, "Okay, what color is this gonna be?" And
Yeah,
maybe it's easy for us to think, "Oh, they're not really thinking, they're just putting colors." But
Yeah, especially given Tomino's quote yesterday when he said, like, "I would like to say that there's a hidden meaning behind all of these things,
yeah,
but that would be a lie."
yeah,
Like,
I love that.
sometimes and I love that he's honest about this on some of those things is like, you know
Yeah, no, that is interesting. Yeah, but I gotta say, like, I this is again, when I first watched Zeta, I was like, "Why is this the mobile suit?" It looks bad,
Mhm.
and it might look bad in terms of it being animated because of how complex it is, and then maybe which Is there even a model kit? Um, okay, it
Yes,
looks like
yes.
there is.
In fact, I've seen some amazing customs, like, because the transformation mechanism behind the Gaza series is so simple, it's one of the easiest mobile suits that you can take a model kit and put motors in it and motorize the transformation because
Oh,
it
wow.
just folds right up, right? It's not like it's not like the Zeta where, the wings have to rotate around and fold up under, like, the transformation mechanism of the Gaza line is so simplistic.
Yeah,
Uh,
because of the I guess the design of it lends to it being easily transformable, and it actually looks pretty cool. It almost gives it like a mobile armor look, which it's based on a mobile armor, so it kinda makes sense that it went in that direction.
yeah.
Um,
Reminds me a lot of the Bound Dock now that, if you
yes, that's a good point. I wonder how much of that is shared.
Mhm.
And what I would love to actually, just like that interview you found, find an interview about the mechanical designs of some of the Zeta suits. We got an
Yeah.
explanation of the Hakushiki, which was just they were looking for a design of a Zeta, and
Yep.
but yeah, to actually look at like the Bondoc, I think is a good example. Why? Why? But it could be
Right.
cool. Just what they were thinking. Um, But it's almost like I think you even told me, it sounds like Bound Dog, and the pilots were these people that were pretty much, like,
Yep.
treated like dogs. They were on a
Yeah.
leash and then sent out to go do something, and yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually just recently read in an interview, um, that we never found out what happened to Gates Kappa after the
Oh,
Grips conflict, and so that got me I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna have to remember to look into that later," is, like, Gates Kappa was, Rosamia's handler, and he had
yeah.
that gray custom colored Bound Dock, and, he fled the battle after Rosamia was killed.
Hmm. And we haven't heard from him, not even like a side story, as far
Not
as
to
we
my
know.
knowledge, but yeah, I mean, that's one
Probably
of the
out
things
there.
I'd like to look into because he was, I mean, an underutilized character in my opinion.
Yeah. No, really, that's a good one. So I gotta say, looking outside of animation, it's a cool looking suit. And I think that's what it is like at the time too, something to get over. Sometimes older animation, it's really hard to get an idea of what a mobile suit is supposed to be in terms of scale.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I mean,
eh,
this is still the Gaza C. I mean, the Gaza G has like larger wing binders, so it's a little bit more aggressive looking. So, I mean,
yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like and what it plays like in GBO2. Um,
yeah, because I again I find it interesting how it looks like it has these gigantic beam sabers.
and that could be a functional choice, because the Gaza C was designed basically as like a hit and run device, right? Like the knuckle buster is one of the most powerful beam weapons of that era. So it basically has this mega gun. It has the ability to transform and move very quickly like a mobile armor would. So it was very much designed for two very specific purposes, right? Speed and firepower. So what
Yeah,
if you were to take that concept and you're looking at a mobile suit that has presumably hyper beam sabers, but curiously, it lacks the knuckle buster.
yeah,
So maybe this was designed to be like a melee variant of the Gaza C and
yeah.
Gaza
We
D.
gotta either we have to read Sentinel or Moon and then fill this out. 'Cause, yeah, there's not.
Right, yeah, exactly, no kidding. Well,
Um,
and so in the GBO2 description, is it do we know whether it's a raid or a general or
Oh, yeah. I think I have that, let me did I? Hold on. Let me pull that up actually. Yeah, that's a really good point because sometimes they kinda keep that consistent with canon. Okay.
yeah, they typically do a very good job of, like, interpreting what a unit was used for in the series and, like, you know,
General.
it's a general.
Yeah. Which is
Interesting.
pretty neat. That could explain how, you were talking about how, to use hit and run tactics, but then also, it's kinda got this melee going on. So it that because I've learned a lot in GBO2 that, something could be support, something could be raid, but it could have additional attributes that then make it like a general support or general raid. So that could be the thinking behind making this a general.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that was this normal suit here from Neo Xeon 3. So that's another thing. Like it says Neo Xeon 3,
Yeah.
but like what is this in reference to? Is this colors out of Double Zeta?
I don't recognize it from Double Zeta, but I mean, I recognize the suit design
Yeah,
from
me
Double
too.
Zeta, but
Yeah.
not the colorway.
Yeah, that's the thing with the color. I don't know. That would be something neat to look up. Um well cool. So yeah, it's funny how I feel like this is the second time we've talked the Gaza line here on the show, and I think it's because it is just a another example of an under discussed suit that has some neat history to it, some neat lore that maybe that needs to be its own
Yeah.
video where I go through each one to explain how it was developed from the Ago because I feel like sometimes, yeah, as an example of a suit we just don't think about, and it could be cool.
Yeah, I bet, Talos being Greek would say, like, everything is rooted in the Ago, right? Like, the Gaplant,
Oh,
if you follow the development tree, it came from the Ago nuts.
I wonder. Because what's interesting about the Ago thing here is it doesn't say what it led to. You know how sometimes it would have that on the side here? It doesn't on this,
Yeah.
but we know for sure that that's what. Yeah. So, and yeah. So if you guys haven't watched it, MS Igloo is really good for Gundam lore stuff, UC lore. Especially they have episodes that are circled around the Ago, for instance, and it's kind of devastating. Some of the things that people go through because, like, think about being in this or a ball in space and having to fight. Like one puncture, you're gone. Like
Yeah.
it's it's pretty crazy. Okay, so moving on, I want to get into well, actually, we're going to get into a Gunpla from Build Metaverse, but first I wanted to talk about since that first episode came out. And
Yeah.
what's the plan? I guess is it then like the next one is tomorrow?
I guess so.
And I think it's only 3 episodes?
Yeah, it's a mini series,
Yeah, okay.
kinda like that Battlelog, right?
Yeah, just like Battle, yeah. So, we talked a little bit about it yesterday on yours, but my biggest takeaway is, it's and I did a video on it too, yeah, but it's like it's not what I would look for in Gundam, but now that I'm a Gundam fan and I appreciate the different mobile suits, builds, characters, watching it, it's a lighthearted way to get a Gundam fill without that burden of trauma, I guess. You know,
Right.
like does this stuff interest you at all? Did you have a history of enjoying build stuff?
So the only Build series that I've watched in its entirety was, Build Fighters Try, which is technically a sequel, so, like, I didn't pick up on some of the stuff that happened in Build Fighters, prior
Mm,
to Try, but I enjoyed it, it's not what I would normally go for in a Gundam series like you, I prefer UC stuff, but, like, Build series are just good fun, and that's what I got from Metaverse as well. I really enjoyed the way, and I think I mentioned this on Twitter, is, like, it it really seems to me like this is Bandai's vision for what they want the metaverse to be
yeah,
in real life. Obviously the technology is not quite there yet to have like the mobile suit scanners and stuff like that. And they even anticipate the idea of I think about like famous Gunpla YouTubers and builders like Roji Studio and stuff like that. I guarantee you that there are going to be, 100 Roji Studios in the Gundam metaverse, right? And
mm,
so the Gundam metaverse show anticipated that with the character being like, "Oh, those are the guys from Build Divers," and the his mentor has to remind him like, "Hey, you can set your username to be whatever you want, and like
yeah,
your avatar can be anything. Like
I like that.
these aren't those people." So, how many how many people are wearing Char uniforms in GBO2 in the
Yeah,
lobby? Like, you know, it just it's, yeah, it's just
I know what you mean.
realistic to me.
And I think I brought it up in the video. Like, if
Mm.
if you were to look at the time of NFTs or Metaverse, like who's actually utilizing it, and it looks like Bandai knows what they're doing. Like they're like, no, 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 Metaverse would be an example in the Gundam IP exactly what they're doing. Because yeah,
Yeah,
people having their own avatars, and I think, and I signed up for it, but there's that beta for the actual, and I forget what it's called, the real Gunpla Metaverse thing going on, where you can scan, like you download it to your PC, and maybe I don't know if you use a phone or your webcam to scan it. I signed up for it, but the fact that they've gone that far to kind of show its conception in a show where they're just bouncing off their original idea, but making it more grounded. And
Yeah.
yeah, I really like it. Um, because I do think it would be cool. Like, let's say this thing takes off, like the idea of people scanning their Gunpla for battles, one on one, two on two. I could see it morphing to where there's groups that just do UC reenactments. And that would be something I would totally be into, where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
we're gonna reenact Operation Odessa. Let's get oh, I have a GM here I can use. Scan it
Oh,
in.
yeah.
We'll already
You know
have it.
what? I better, I better dust off my Marcosius squad decals and
There you go. Yeah, that's cool because yeah, then you could even have scanned it before and had it saved. So then when you go to like, because yeah, and then that makes me think like, would it have a combat system where it have a cool control where you're actually then moving? I mean, I don't know, and maybe that information's out there. Eh, I just know that they seem to when they're talking about metaverse, Bandai really has something tangible they can do.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and, I think that there's definitely there's amazing stuff that they could do, and then there's kind of silly stuff that, like, I know a lot of people have a negative view of NFTs, and I can understand why, but, it's all about how it's implemented. I think that
yeah,
if the plan is that you can just scan in your Gunpla and then make an NFT image of your Gunpla, then that's kind of dumb, right? Like, we can all agree that that's kinda dumb. But if we're using, NFT tokens as a way of, certifying ownership of particular kits, like, if I upload my design to the Gundam Build Metaverse, right? My kit that I've customized, you know, what's to stop people from taking the design and just, like, making that their Gunpla, right? It's like
yeah, just like in Forza, when you would go into the paint shop or decal shop and people would have skins already for like the car. You're like, oh,
yeah.
here's the badass Spider-Man logo. Oh, but someone else made one and it looks a little better. And then, oh, someone else made one. It's crappy. Yeah, and I
So,
could see that.
there's ways that I think you could implement that kind of digital asset ownership, and maybe NFT is not the right word because it has, such a stigma attached to it as just
Yeah,
like PNGs,
and it's
but like
nothing different than a skin in a Fortnite account. Yeah,
exactly. But if there was a way to establish like digital ownership over your technically it's physical property because you made the Gunpla in real life before you scanned it.
yeah, yeah. I like the idea of that kind of being a part of it, where it's almost like you can have your account where you can scan in all these custom gunplay you build, and it makes it very unique. But you can
Mhm.
still inspire others to be like, "Dang, that guy's got a GM Spartan with some badass decals. I'm gonna go ahead and do that so I can have mine."
Yeah.
I think that is like, I feel like that's the logical next step because so for that Gundam Breaker Mobile, that got shut down, there were
Mhm.
so many people that said that they were playing that because they don't have room for Gunpla. So, or much so a lot of times they like to build that way. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I guess I see that, even though for me, I wouldn't care. But I can see where that is something Bandai should invest in, is like a virtual Gunpla booth. I don't know.
It
Yeah,
definitely saves them money on plastic.
yeah. There you go. And which is interesting. And I'm not going to get far into it, but apparently that's an issue where companies are trying to reduce their plastic
Mhm.
and the types of plastic. And it's one of those things where if things go in this direction, technically model kits won't be around in the future. They wouldn't be manufactured. They would have to come up with a different material or yeah, make it virtual. Um, so speaking of the show, look at this Typhoeus Gundam Chimera. I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly.
I
This
I don't know if
thing
there is a proper pronunciation for that. That's just
made up, made up
a
on the
made
spot.
up word.
Hold on, how do I zoom in? Okay, yeah, allow, sure. Um, this thing looks awesome. And what it is they're showing it next to the entry grade. Let me move this over. Um, so it's the entry grade, the main one from Build, from the main character, which I got it from Metaverse. Probably
Yeah.
should delineate that, but I tell you, every time I see it again, I'm like, that actually does look good.
The La Gundam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
log on him. Thank you. I'm like, yeah, that actually does look good. And so next to it, this giant beast, like this could be something out of UC. And like it could even be like some Titans. Think if it had Titans colors on it.
Yeah,
Like,
I was trying to, like, kind of piece together where some of these parts came from because the rifles on its shoulders, at first, I thought they were Dober guns, like the ones that are on the Tall Geese, and the Tall Geese 2,
hmm.
but they are actually the smoothbore rifles from IBO.
Oh,
So
okay.
those rifles, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that they're the smoothbore rifle that comes with the, high grade Barbatos kit.
And I don't recognize it, so that could be accurate then. If it's not UC, it's hard for me to.
If it ain't UC, it ain't for me.
That's a T-shirt.
That's yeah, right there.
Um, I love it because out of context, I love people reading that and being like, "What?" And be like, "Yeah, Universal Century, you
Duh.
know, the best timeline." No, but um, so there was other things that because of the green and the red and like the real crazy tall V-fin, it reminded me of SD Gunpla designs as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. It kinda looks
Um,
like the Musha Gundam a little bit
yes,
in that.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the arm, the hands too. I like that's like Psycho Gundam stuff. Even though I know there was big ones in others, but I think that's like the first. Like, I think the paint scheme on this is cool, but oh wait, is that a transforming mode? Oh,
You know
yep,
it.
mobile armor. Look at that. Like this thing to me is like UC. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah,
has that
it's kinda like the Neo
UC.
Zeong
Yeah,
in the way it, like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I would get this, and yeah, I wonder how fun it would be to put a custom paint scheme on it to make it look like the Neo Zeong or
yeah.
something. Or if I get it like a GM sniper from oh wait, the MS team, the kind of green. I think that would lend really well. Uh,
Well, you know what I would do? Because obviously this looks like an Advance of Zeta style mobile suit, mobile armor combo.
oh, I'm just seeing this
This
just now.
this just begs to be Titan's colors.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, and because it has its like mobile armor mode, we know there's a lot of
That
advanced
that
Zeta.
look, I may be Xeon through and through, but, like, there is not a mobile suit on Earth that doesn't look good in Titan's, like,
All
navy
right.
and navy and
Es-
purple.
Especially the color scheme they use that's like on that custom you were working on. Remember from like the
Oh, yeah.
scans from the magazine where it has that, is it like a yellow line that kind of
Yeah, that yellow
separates?
stripe just makes it pop.
Yeah.
Because like, the regular, like, Titans, Mark II doesn't have those yellow stripes on it.
Yeah. In okay, so I'm just seeing this too, scrolling through it, but here's I guess what it looks like without the extra armor on, which it still looks awesome. Like
Yeah. Still
this
has
is
one of the smoothbore cannons on its shoulder, and it looks like it's
yeah,
using one of the feet as its shield.
yeah.
Am I seeing that correctly?
That's what it looked like to me, yeah. And I think also, they come off as
As, like,
the
funnels?
they're like booster funnels, yeah, that's I'm liking everything about this. This, yeah, definitely screams Advanced Zeta.
And, like, say what you will about build series themselves, the kits that come out of the series are fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
most of the innovations that we get in the high grade line come from build kits. Like,
Yeah,
the Build Gundam Mark II is leagues better than the regular high grade Mark II.
oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've noticed that to be the case. And I've said I don't build much outside of UC, but typically when I have, it's been something build related. Um, just because they do a callback to the best of like from a bunch of things, but UC in particular.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, this you're saying December 2023, so like, and that's not a bad price, but this is Hobby Link Japan, so there'd be shipping on top of that.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like though, if we wanted to get it at a reduced price, it probably won't be until like springtime, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
domestically, I don't know, because sometimes it takes a couple months for.
Well, and do they do free shipping over like $200 or something? 'Cause you should always just add more kits.
Oh yeah, just add more kits, right?
Just
Yeah,
buy
I don't know.
more.
I don't know if they do the free shipping. That would be actually good. I think though they do have their deal where you cut down on shipping by adding things to the warehouse or whatever, and then shipping together. So
Yeah,
there's that.
yeah.
Um, okay, something else Gumpler related. So this is, I guess, the new kits for Seed Freedom, which I looked at one of them a bit more. It was I think the main Freedom one, and it has like
Mm,
the logo on its chest. Uh,
yeah.
and I gotta admit, that's like an awesome look. So I think the kits are or the suits are looking pretty cool. But so I saw there's the Seed Action System. Okay. This kit
Interesting.
incorporates the Seed Action System. So I was like, well, what's that? Okay. So the kit pursues articulation in the neck, shoulder. Is that pursues?
Well, it's because they don't fully achieve articulation in the neck and shoulders, but they pursue. Yeah.
Yes. That's funny that you say that. And I wonder if they meant that way, where like that's the translation and they really mean that. But to us, we're like, well, come on, we don't like it when, it can't fully. So yeah, and torso to enable the recreation of lively and dynamic poses seen in the Seed series.
Very cool.
And it's interesting because we see that sometimes, like when I think it was the G40, was it when the G40 came out,
Mhm.
how they're like, here's this articulation system,
Yeah,
which then I would feel, okay,
same thing with the Zeta. The Gundam Evolution project, like, the Zeta Gundam was supposed to be, like, the foundation of, like, new high grade kits were going to incorporate all of these different gimmicks to provide a more, just more posability. Like, it's
well, and so it would seem to me that that would be some standardization, but it's more like each line, they're like, okay, let's just make it articulated and then let's call it something.
right.
It's what it seems like it is at the end of the day.
I
Although
if I were working in Bandai marketing, my what I would do is probably name it after things in universe, like, call it the
oh,
movable frame or, like,
yeah,
magnetic coating, like, featuring magnetic coating, which allows for greater posability. It's just a ball joint, but, like, you
dude,
know what
I
I'm
like
saying?
that idea. That I like it where it's like in universe, like the technology that it incorporates. Yeah, I do like that. Let me see if this had any more pictures. This is just Gundam. No, I guess not
And
Gundam
those are
News
those,
on
like,
Facebook.
Power Ranger Gundams, right? The ones that are, like, in the
Yeah,
different colors, yeah.
yeah, that was pretty neat. I like that idea. Now there's something else I was searching up on here. Um,
Facebook, you boomer.
I know, right? But what's funny is there's not really one place you can go for Gundam news.
No,
Like you
there
really
really
can't.
isn't.
The Gundam News website that's in English updates a couple times. It's usually not a big deal. It's like here's this new Gashapon you could buy.
Yep.
Um, Twitter, I'll sometimes have to source Twitter, but then yeah, this Facebook, because it's other people when they come across things and they post them. So
Yeah, yeah. We need to make, like, a Gundam aggregator.
yeah, well, and so here's the thing with that. That's a good point. I wonder within the Gundam sphere, is there where people are more on the hobby end, and then there are people on the lore end, and between that, there's like different types of collectibles, people that just are into anime. I bet that's what makes it hard sometimes because it's hard to
Oh,
like
yeah.
niche down.
'Cause, like, I love Zeonic Scanlations, but you wouldn't go to him for, Gunpla news.
News,
You
yeah,
go to him for
exactly,
mangas. Like,
yeah,
that's like, manga is his thing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's true. Yeah. So anyway, to be honest, I think the seed stuff looks pretty neat. Um, and so for me, seed was disappointed, but destiny was awesome. If freedom is awesome, that'd be like 2 out of 3, and then that might make me a seed stan. I don't know. We'll see. Because there's just cool designs. I just tend to veer away from collecting that stuff because it just with UC, every story is a banger.
oh, yeah.
It's weird how well they did that. Um, okay, well, cool. So yeah, I think that's about it on this episode. Yeah, a lot of fun to talk about. just stuff that we don't normally dive into, like random mobile suits like the Gaza, and then seeing what they're doing with non-UC Gunpla. I'm kind of excited. I tell you, I'm buying that Typhoeus Gundam Chimera, however you pronounce that. I'm totally gonna get
The
one.
James Tiberius Chimera, I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, um, but no, cool. Yeah. Anything else, Steven, to bring up or mention?
I don't think so. I think you touched on just about
Yeah.
everything exciting today.
Yeah, I think so. Well, cool. Well, yeah, that was a good one. Thanks to everyone that joined. Yeah, sometimes you might see that the show starts a little bit late. That's just because I have work stuff that's busy that leads up to this hour. So that's why we start late sometimes. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, just yeah, reach out, like email gundamexplained@gmail.com. Sometimes it's hard for me to look at chat while we do these shows, but if you send me questions, I can read them on air and stuff.
Yeah,
I love to do that stuff. So anyway, yeah, check the links in the description for Steven's channel. Our show was awesome yesterday for Talos's channel because he did that video with Steven. That's really awesome. But yeah, that's about it. All right.
cool.
So see everyone later.
Cheers.